The 80s didn't just build motorcycles, they built attitude and sexy motorcycles. This was the decade of big hair, bigger engines, and bikes that felt alive long before electronics tamed the world. So, we're counting 18 80s legends that outpunch, outlast, and outfeel anything built today. Some were masterpieces, some were mistakes, but all of them were icons. Number 18, the Honda Nighthawk 700S. You might be wondering why a 700 cubic centimeter standard bike is on a list of machines that destroy modern bikes. Is it the fastest? No. Is it the sexiest? Maybe, if you like boxy 80s styling. But the answer lies in one word: invincibility. Modern naked bikes are plagued with radiator leaks, complex electronics that require a PhD to understand, and valve service intervals that cost as much as a used Honda Civic. The 1984 Honda Nighthawk 700S was designed to destroy the mechanic's business model. It featured hydraulic valve adjusters, meaning you never had to adjust the valves. Ever. You could ride this thing until the sun exploded, and the valves would still be in spec. It had a shaft drive, meaning you never had to lube a chain and get grease all over your new white sneakers. It was air and oil cooled, meaning no radiators or cracks seen when you inevitably dropped it in the driveway. But do not think for a second that this was a boring commuter for your dad. The S stood for sport. This was a hot rod designed to skirt the draconian United States tariffs on motorcycles over 700 cubic centimeters. Basically, a tax meant to save Harley-Davidson from extinction. To compensate for the smaller displacement, Honda engineers tuned the inline-4 engine to scream. It produced 80 horsepower at 10,000 revolutions per minute. That is a specific output that embarrasses many modern air-cooled twins. Riding a Nighthawk S today feels like shaking hands with an old friend who happens to be a professional boxer. It punches above its weight. The power delivery is linear, the bikini fairing deflects just enough wind to keep you comfortable at triple-digit speeds, and the handling is surprisingly neutral for a bike that looks like a brick. While a modern bike might lap a track faster, the Nighthawk will get you there, do the track day, and get you home without a single warning light flashing on the dash because it doesn't have any warning lights. It destroys modern bikes by simply outliving them. But if the Nighthawk was the king of low maintenance, our next entry was the king of high-speed touring, earning a nickname that sounded like an insult, but was actually the highest praise imaginable. Number 17, the BMW K100RS. In the early 80s, BMW was known for quirky boxer twins that were reliable, but, let us be honest, about as exciting as watching paint dry. They were old man bikes. Then, in 1983, they dropped a bomb on the motorcycling world. They built a 4-cylinder engine, but because they are German and refuse to be normal, they laid it flat on its side. They called it the compact drive system. The world called it the flying brick. And honestly, that is the coolest nickname in motorcycling history. The K100RS was a revelation. That longitudinal 987 cubic centimeter inline 4-engine produced 90 horsepower. That might not sound like a lot today, but the way it made that power was unique. Because the engine was part of the frame, the bike was incredibly rigid. It had a center of gravity so low, it felt like it was magnetized to the tarmac. It didn't fall into corners. It carved them like a Thanksgiving turkey. Ride a K100RS today, and you will understand why it destroys modern sport tours. Modern tourers are laden with TFT screens, Bluetooth connectivity, heated seats, and electronic suspension that feels disconnected from reality. The flying brick is pure mechanical feedback. You feel the road, not the computer's interpretation of the road. It can sit at 130 miles per hour on the Autobahn all day long, vibration-free, thanks to that laid-down engine configuration. It is a bike that was built to cover continents, not just counties. The Bosch 𝐏𝐄𝐑 fuel injection system was automotive grade and bulletproof. You see these bikes today with 200,000 miles on the clock still pulling hard. It destroys modern bikes with its sheer, unadulterated durability and a unique engine character that has never been replicated. Are you enjoying the video yet? Before you go on, do us a favor, like this video and subscribe to our channel. You'll be glad you did. However, while BMW was redefining touring with car parts, engineers were busy building an air-cooled monster designed to dominate the drag strip and the canyon roads alike. Number 16, the Yamaha FJ1100. There is no replacement for displacement. In 1984, Yamaha took this American muscle car mantra to heart and released the FJ1100. It was a bike that looked like it was moving fast, even when it was parked on its side stand. The heart of the beast was a 1,097 cubic centimeter air-cooled inline 4. It pumped out 125 horsepower. In 1984, that was earth-shattering. It was like straping a rocket to a bicycle. But it wasn't just the peak power, it was the torque. This engine pulled like a freight train from just off idle. You could put it in fifth gear at 30 miles per hour and just roll the throttle open, and the horizon would rush towards you, like a zoom lens. Modern sport tourers are often heavy, complicated, and tall. The FJ1100 was built with a lateral frame concept that wrapped around the engine, keeping the bike low and manageable. It feels substantial, planted, and incredibly powerful. What destroys modern bikes here is the sensation of that big air-cooled engine. It has a growl and a heat that water-cooled engines simply cannot match. It feels alive. There are no radiator fans whirring to drown out the exhaust note like a vacuum cleaner. It is just you, a bank of Mikuni carburetors, and a massive amount of torque. It is a muscle bike in touring clothes, and it remains one of the most reliable motorcycles Yamaha has ever built. But if the FJ was a muscle bike for the road, there was a machine that was practically a drag bike right out of the crate, complete with a cylinder head design that sounded like sci-fi gibberish. Number 15, the Suzuki GS1100E. Before the GSXR revolutionized the track, the Suzuki GS series ruled the street, and the king of them all was the GS1100E. This thing was a beast. Released in 1980, this bike featured the legendary twin-swirl combustion chamber, or TSCC engine. What does TSCC mean? Who cares? It sounds cool. But actually, it was a 16-valve, 1,074 cubic centimeter masterpiece that produced 108 horsepower. It was so over-engineered that drag racers instantly realized they could double the horsepower with stock internals. You could throw a turbo on this thing and it wouldn't even blink. On the street, the GS1100E is a velvet sledgehammer. It is incredibly smooth, comfortable, and civilized until you open the taps. Then it becomes a missile. It was the fastest production bike in the world when it came out, running the quarter mile in the 11-second range. That is still fast today. But in 1980, it was alien technology. It destroys modern retro bikes because it is the real deal. It is not a modern bike dressed up in a vintage costume like a hipster at a thrift store. It is the authentic article. The handling, while heavy by modern standards, it turns with the grace of a cruise ship, is predictable and stable. But the engine is the star. It has a bottomless well of power that makes modern, high-revving engines feel frantic and weak. It commands respect on the road, not because it is flashy, but because everyone knows the engine is bulletproof and brutally fast. Speaking of bulletproof, our next entry proves that you do not need a liter of displacement to be a legend. You just need a bright red paint job and an engine that refuses to die. Number 14, the Kawasaki GPZ550. Sometimes greatness comes in small packages. In the early 80s, the middleweight class was a war zone, and the Kawasaki GPZ550 was the weapon of choice. This wasn't just a commuter bike with a fairing, it was a giant killer. With 58 horsepower from its 553 cubic centimeter air-cooled engine, it punched well above its weight class. It featured Kawasaki's Unitrack rear suspension, anti-dive forks, which didn't really work, but looked cool, in a fiery red paint scheme that became iconic. It looked fast standing still. Ride a GPZ550 today, and you will be shocked at how nimble it is. It weighs just over 400 pounds, making it flickable and precise. The engine loves to rev, screaming to its red line with a mechanical thrash that is addictive. It sounds like a bag of angry wrenches, and we love it. It destroys modern entry-level bikes because it has genuine pedigree. Modern 300s and 400s are often built to a budget with cheap components and plastic that feels like a Tupperware container. The GPZ550 was built to win production races. It feels solid, substantial, and high quality. It is a motorcycle that teaches you how to carry corner speed, how to manage momentum, and how to have fun without breaking the speed limit by triple digits. It is the definition of slow bike fast, except it isn't actually that slow. But while the GPZ was refining the old school, someone somewhere was secretly working on a project that would change the shape of sport bikes forever, literally. Number 13, the Honda CBR 600F Hurricane, 1987. This is the year the sport bike world changed. Before this moment, sport bikes were mostly naked bikes, with fairings bolted on as an afterthought. Then came the Hurricane. The Honda CBR 600F was the first fully faired, jelly mold sport bike. It looked like a spaceship or a bar of soap, depending on who you asked, but the bodywork was not just for show. It hit a steel frame and a liquid-cooled inline-4 that produced 85 horsepower. It was the first 600 class bike to crack the 11-second quarter-mile barrier. It wrapped everything in plastic, hiding the messy mechanical bits. The Hurricane destroys modern supersport bikes in one crucial area: usability. Modern 600s are miserable on the street. Racer crouch ergonomics that destroy your wrists. Rock-hard seats and engines that are gutless below 10,000 revolutions per minute. The Hurricane was, and is, comfortable. You can ride it to work, ride it across the state, and then take it to a track day. It is the grandfather of the modern sport bike, but it has a softness and a compliance that has been lost in the pursuit of lap times. The engine is turbine smooth, a hallmark of Honda engineering. It starts every time, runs forever, and still has enough power to embarrass modern traffic. It is the perfect balance of performance and practicality, proving you don't need to be in physical pain to go fast. However, while Honda was enclosing everything in plastic, one was experimenting with the very heart of the combustion engine, deciding that 4 valves were simply not enough. Number 12, the Yamaha FZ750. If 4 valves per cylinder are good, 5 must be better, right? That was the logic behind the Yamaha FZ750 and its legendary Genesis engine. Because we can, said Yamaha. Introduced in 1985, the FZ750 featured a cylinder head with 3 intake valves and 2 exhaust valves per cylinder. The engine block was also canted forward at 45 degrees to lower the center of gravity and allow for straighter intake ports. It was a radical departure from tradition. It was weird, and it worked. The result was 100 horsepower from 750 cubic centimeters and a red line of 11,000 revolutions per minute. This engine is a gem. It has a unique howl at high revolutions that sends shivers down your spine. It sounds like a Formula One car having an argument with a chainsaw. The FZ750 destroys modern bikes because it represents a time when companies took massive engineering risks just to see what would happen. The handling is long and stable, making it a brilliant fast road bike. It feels planted in a way that flighty modern bikes do not. Plus, that 20-valve engine is virtually indestructible. There are examples with over 100,000 miles that have never had the head off. It is engineering brilliance that you can feel every time you twist the throttle. But even 5 valves could not compete with the pop culture impact of our next entry. This is the bike that launched 1 million pilot fantasies and sold 1 billion pairs of aviator sunglasses. Number 11, the Kawasaki GPZ900R. I feel the need for speed. You cannot talk about the GPZ900R without mentioning the movie Top Gun. If you owned this bike in 1986, you were Maverick. But to dismiss this bike as just a movie prop is a grave mistake. This was the first bike to carry the Ninja name, and it earned it. Released in 1984, it was the first production motorcycle to top 150 miles per hour. It achieved this with a compact, liquid-cooled, 16-valve inline-4 that produced 115 horsepower. The engine was used as a stressed member of the diamond frame, a layout that paved the way for modern superbike chassis design. The GPZ900R destroys modern bikes with its presence. Pull up on a modern ZX-10R and people will glance at it and say, "Nice bike." Pull up on a black and red GPZ900R and people will cross the street to talk to you. It is an icon. But beyond the fame, it is a magnificent motorcycle to ride. It is physically larger than modern sport bikes, giving the rider plenty of room to stretch out. The power delivery is broad and muscular. It feels like a cruise missile, stable, powerful, and relentless. It bridged the gap between the air-cooled dinosaurs and the modern race replicas, offering the best of both worlds. Plus, racing a fighter jet on a runway is strictly optional. And speaking of the best of both worlds, our next bike combined race-bred technology with a kind of reliability that seems impossible. Number 10, the Honda VFR 750F. If you ask a group of mechanics what the best motorcycle engine ever made is, half of them will say the Honda V4 with gear-driven cams. The other half are wrong. The 1986 VFR 750F is the bike that cemented this reputation. After some teething issues with earlier V4s, chocolate camshafts, anyone, Honda over-engineered the VFR to an insane degree. They replaced the cam chains with a complex cascade of gears to drive the camshafts, This eliminated cam chain tensioner problems and created a distinctive whining sound that enthusiasts worship. It sounds like a supercharger, but it's just pure mechanical precision. The VFR 750F destroys modern bikes with its build quality. Everything on this bike feels like it was machined from a solid block of aluminum. The paint is deep, the switchgear is crisp, and the engine is unburstable. You could drop it off a cliff and it would probably still start. On the road, the V4 engine offers the perfect compromise between the torque of a twin and the top-end rush of an inline-4. It produces around 105 horsepower, which is the perfect amount for the street. It is not terrifying, but it is deceptively fast. The aluminum beam frame provided handling that was light years ahead of its steel-framed contemporaries. It is a gentleman's sport bike, a machine that respects the rider and rewards smoothness. So, tell us in the comments, which of these 80s legends would you put in your garage? The reliable Honda or the terrifying Yamaha? Let us know. And let's get back to the countdown. And while the VFR was a gentleman, Suzuki was about to unleash a hooligan that would change the track forever. But before we riot, I would like to know what your favorite bike is on this list. Did or do you own one of these? Let us know in the comments. Number 9. The Suzuki GSXR750, 1985. This is the Genesis, the bike that defined the modern sport bike replica. Before 1985, sport bikes were heavy pigs. The Suzuki GSXR750 changed the equation by focusing on one thing: weight, or rather, the lack of it. It weighed just 388 pounds dry. It achieved this by using an aluminum cradle frame and an air oil cooled engine. Suzuki called it SACS, Suzuki Advanced Cooling System. It used high volumes of oil to cool the cylinder head, eliminating the weight of water jackets, radiators, and pumps. The result was a bike that felt like a bicycle with a rocket engine. It produced 100 horsepower in a chassis that was 50 pounds lighter than its competitors. It destroys modern bikes because it is raw. There are no rider aids, no ABS, no slipper clutch. The flat slide carburetors respond instantly to your wrist. The handling is razor sharp but twitchy. It demands your full attention. Riding an original Slabby, named for its slab-sided bodywork, is an intense experience. You feel every bump, every combustion event, every slide of the rear tire. It connects you to the physics of riding in a way that modern sanitized machines cannot. It is a race bike with lights. Pure and simple. But if the GSXR was about cornering speed, our next entry was about straight-line devastation. Number 8. The Yamaha V-Max 1200. Subtlety is overrated. In 1985, Yamaha looked at the American muscle car culture and decided to build the two-wheeled equivalent. The result was the V-MAX. It was the Terminator of motorcycles. This bike was built around one massive component, a 1,197 cubic centimeter V4 engine. But this was no ordinary engine. It featured V-Boost, a system that opened butterfly valves in the intake manifold at 6,000 revolutions per minute, allowing each cylinder to breathe through 2 carburetors instead of 1. The effect was like hitting a nitrous button. The V-Max pumped out 145 horsepower. In 1985, this was absolute insanity. The chassis was barely adequate to handle the power, the brakes were wooden, and the handling was vague at best. And that is exactly why it destroys modern bikes. Modern power cruisers handle well and stop safely. The V-Max does not. It is a wild bucking bronco that tries to tear your arms out of their sockets every time V-Boost kicks in. It is terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. It is a bike that reminds you that motorcycling is supposed to be a little bit dangerous. It has unparalleled attitude and a presence that makes modern cruisers look like toys. From the drag strip, we move to the desert. The next bike created an entire genre of motorcycling that dominates the market today. Number 7. The BMW R80G/S. Today, the adventure bike segment is the most popular in the world. Every manufacturer has a 1,000cc beast covered in panniers parked outside of a Starbucks. It all started here. The BMW R80G/S stands for Gelände/Straße, off-road/road. Launched in 1980, it was a contradiction. A heavy boxer twin street bike with long travel suspension and knobby tires. Critics laughed. They said it was too heavy for dirt and too slow for the street. Then it went to the Paris-Dakar rally and won. Again and again. The R80GS destroys modern adventure bikes through simplicity. Modern ADVs are technological marvels, but they are heavy and complex. If you break down in the middle of the Sahara on a modern bike with an ECU fault, you are in trouble. The R80 GS can be fixed with a hammer and a wrench. It is air-cooled, shaft-driven, and rugged. It weighs just over 400 pounds, which is featherweight compared to modern adventure Leviathans. The 797 cubic centimeter boxer engine produces 50 horsepower. It is not fast, but it is unstoppable. It has a low center of gravity that makes it incredibly balanced off-road. Riding one today gives you a sense of freedom that modern bikes, with their tethers to dealerships and diagnostic computers, simply cannot provide. But sometimes you do not want to go off-road. Sometimes you just want to go extremely fast on the highway with the style of a cyborg. Number 6. The Ducati 750 F1. If the Guzzi was a tank, this was a scalpel. This is the 1985 Ducati 750 F1. This bike is pure, unadulterated racing DNA. It wasn't just inspired by a race bike. It was a direct replica of the legendary TT2 race bike that Tony Rudder rode to victory in the Formula 2 World Championship. It was a race bike with lights and a license plate, and barely enough of either to be legal. At its heart lies a 748 cubic centimeter air-cooled L-twin engine. Now looking at the spec sheet, you might scoff. It makes roughly 62 horsepower, but numbers lie. This bike weighed nothing. It tipped the scales at under 400 pounds. That is lighter than almost any modern sport bike, because it was so light that 62 horsepower felt like 100. It was tiny, it was cramped, it was loud. It had a dry clutch that rattled and clanked like a bag of hammers at a stoplight, a sound that became Ducati's signature, and it handled like it was telepathic. You didn't steer it, you just thought about turning, and you were already at the apex. It was nimble, precise, and rewarding in a way that big, heavy superbikes could never be. This is the bike that saved Ducati. In the mid-80s, Ducati was struggling. The F1 proved that a light, agile twin could beat the powerful, multi-cylinder Japanese machines on a twisty track. It laid the groundwork for the 851, the 916, and eventually, the Panigale. It is the grandfather of every modern Ducati superbike. It is rare, it is exotic, and it is expensive. A real, unmolested F1 can easily cost $15,000 or more. But for that price, you aren't just buying a motorcycle, you are buying the purest Ducati experience available. You are buying the bike that defined the brand for a generation. It is a legend. However, if you wanted the ultimate in straight-line acceleration in the 80s, you did not look at a sport bike. You looked at a cruiser that was confused about its identity. Number 5. The Honda V65 Magna. This is the sleeper, the wolf in sheep's clothing. In 1983, Honda took their V4 racing technology and stuffed it into a cruiser chassis. They called it the V65 Magna. The 65 stood for the engine's displacement in cubic inches, 1,100 cubic centimeters. It produced 116 horsepower, but the most shocking number was its quarter-mile time. This cruiser could run a 10-second quarter-mile. Let that sink in. A cruiser from 1983 that is faster in a straight line than many modern supersport bikes. It looked like a bike you'd ride to a poker game, but it went like a scalded cat. The V65 Magna destroys modern bikes because it completely subverts expectations. It looks like a relaxed Sunday ride, but it accelerates like a fighter jet. The V4 engine is incredibly smooth, but pulls with a ferocity that is frightening. It has a 6-speed transmission with an overdrive top gear, making it a capable tourer as well. It represents a time when Honda was flexing its engineering muscles, showing the world that they could build the fastest bike in any category they chose. It is a muscle bike that requires no excuses and leaves everyone else at the stoplight wondering what just happened. Now things are getting serious. We are approaching the podium. But first, we have the bike that changed motorcycle design forever. Number 4. The Suzuki Katana 1100. In 1981, motorcycles looked like motorcycles. They had round headlights, flat seats, and teardrop tanks. They were boring. Then came the Katana. Designed by Hans Muth of Target Design in Germany, the Katana looked like it had been slashed out of a block of metal by a samurai sword. It was angular, aggressive, and shocking. People hated it. They said it was ugly. They said it looked like a vegetable slicer. People loved it, but nobody ignored it. Underneath the radical bodywork was the bulletproof GS1100 engine we mentioned earlier, tuned to produce 111 horsepower. It was the fastest production bike of its year. The Katana 1100 destroys modern bikes with its pure, unadulterated style. Modern bikes are often overstyled with fake vents and plastic cladding, like a Michael Bay transformer. The Katana is honest. Every line serves a purpose. The long tank, the small fairing, the two-tone seat. It is automotive art. Riding a Katana is an event. The riding position is stretched out, the clip-ons are low, and the screen does little to protect you. But you do not care. You are riding an icon. The air-cooled engine is visceral and loud. It is a bike that makes you feel like a superhero from a dystopian future. It proves that daring design ages better than conservative design. We are getting close to the podium. Now we're in the top three: the Holy Grail, the king of cool's replica, and the bike that defined exotic. These are the machines that collectors dream of. The bikes that were bred for the track, but built for the road, and they are worth more than your house. Number 3. The Honda CB1100R. If you think the Katana was exclusive, meet the Honda CB1100R. This was not a bike for the masses. This was a homologation special, built in limited numbers solely so Honda could go racing in endurance events. Produced between 1981 and 1983, the CB1100R was essentially a race bike with lights. It featured a blueprinted engine, forged pistons, hotter cams, and a reinforced frame. It was the first Honda to use the R suffix, a badge that would later adorn their most potent machines. It produced 115 horsepower and came with top-shelf components like ventilated disc brakes and adjustable suspension. It was hand-assembled by a select team of technicians who probably wore white gloves. The CB1100R destroys modern bikes with its build quality and rarity. It feels mechanical in the best possible way. The engine is noisy, raw, and incredibly responsive. The single seat and the aluminum fuel tank scream, racer. It is a heavy bike, but once it is moving, it is stable and precise. Driving a modern bike is like driving a modern sedan. Driving the CB1100R is like driving a vintage Le Mans car. It is demanding, hot, and loud, but the connection you feel to the machine is absolute. It is the pinnacle of the air-cooled era, the final, glorious shout before water cooling took over. It is pure unobtainium. But while Honda was winning endurance races, Kawasaki was winning the American Superbike Championship, and they built a bike to celebrate it. Number 2, the Moto Guzzi Le Mans Mark III. This is the Italian heavyweight champion. Released in 1981, this was Guzzi's answer to the escalating superbike wars. But while the Japanese brands were busy building high-revving, buzzing inline fours that sounded like sewing machines, Guzzi stuck to what they knew best: torque. At its heart beats an 844 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine. But this isn't just any V-twin. It is mounted transversely, meaning the huge aluminum cylinders stick out the sides of the bike like a bulldog's shoulders catching the wind. It makes 76 horsepower. The Mark III was the absolute peak of the breed. It featured improved cylinder heads, better carburetors, and refined aerodynamics. It was fast. It could hit 130 miles per hour without breaking a sweat. And it did all of this with shaft drive. While everyone else was messing around with greasy chains that needed constant adjustment, Guzzi owners just rode. It made the bike incredibly stable. In fact, stability is the defining characteristic of the Le Mans. While other bikes of the 80s wobbled and weaved in high-speed corners, the Le Mans felt like it was carved out of a single block of granite. It handled like it was on rails. It also featured Guzzi's legendary integral braking system, where the foot pedal operated one front disc and the rear disc simultaneously, decades ahead of its time. These bikes are climbing in value fast. A good, rider-quality Le Mans Mark III will cost you around $6,000. But for that price, you get one of the most charismatic, robust, and beautiful Italian motorcycles ever made. It is a mechanical sculpture that you can ride to the ends of the earth. And finally, we reach the summit, the motorcycle that many consider to be the greatest ever made. Number 1, the Honda RC30. This is it, the Honda FR750R, better known by its model code RC30. Released in 1987, this was not a production bike. It was a race bike that Honda reluctantly sold to the public to meet homologation rules for the World Superbike Championship, and it cost twice as much as a standard sport bike. It was the price of a small house. Every single part of the RC30 was bespoke. The V4 engine had titanium connecting rods, a first for a production bike. It had gear-driven cams. It had a slipper clutch. The single-sided swing arm was designed to allow for rapid wheel changes during endurance races. The fuel tank was aluminum. The bodywork was hand-laid fiberglass. It was exquisite. The RC30 produces 112 horsepower, but numbers do not tell the story. The engine has a firing order that gives it perfect traction and a drone that sounds like a World War II fighter plane. The handling is telepathic. It feels tiny, dense, and incredibly rigid. The RC30 destroys modern bikes because it was built without compromise. Modern bikes are built to a price point. They have plastic tank covers and cheap stickers. The RC30 was built to win races, and the cost was irrelevant. The build quality is jewelry-like. Every weld, every bolt, every casting is perfect. Riding an RC30 is a religious experience. It is smooth, yet ferocious. It is compliant, yet precise. It is the perfect motorcycle. It represents the absolute peak of Honda's engineering prowess in the 1980s. It is a machine that feels special simply sitting on a side stand, and when you ride it, you realize that for all our modern technology, we have never quite managed to build anything better. The 1980s were a golden era, a time of experimentation, power, and mechanical purity. These 18 motorcycles are not just relics. They are reminders of what we have lost in our pursuit of perfection. They are flawed, they are loud, and they are demanding. And that is exactly why they are better. So go buy some hairspray, put on a leather jacket, and get riding. But before you hit the road, watch another video by clicking on the next one. And do us a massive favor and like this video. Also, let us know in the comments below, which of these beasts would you put in your dream garage?